Welcome aboard right now, longtime NBA star, a former Knick, and that is Rasheed Wallace. Let's Get Technical podcast. Friend of the program, has joined us a number of times. Good afternoon, Sheed. Happy early Thanksgiving to you and the family.
Hey, good afternoon. How you guys doing? And same to you.
We're doing well. We're hanging in there, Rasheed. We are. Before we get into free agency here, I got to ask you, right? Of all the teams, we talked about your Portland days, your Knick days, the introductions in Detroit with the Pistons, were those the greatest player introductions ever?
I got to say so. I got to agree. My man Mace, at the time he was the MC, and he just came up with his own routine. And next thing you know, they tried to emulate it around the league. He came up with the whole Detroit basketball.
Yes, it was fantastic. And Rasheed, I wasn't even a Piston fan, and I look forward to those introductions. Those were unbelievable.
Yes, it was. It was hell of an introductions, and he just had the crowd so excited and everything, and that just made us even more jubilant out there on the floor.
Yeah, well, the Detroit Pistons were really busy during free agency, but I don't know how much better that team got. Rasheed Wallace is joining us. Okay, Sheed, what was your favorite move from the first couple days of free agency?
To be honest, I would probably have to say I think the biggest impact would be Chris Paul. He's out there with some young studs now in Phoenix, and he's always been a great leader, from the days when he was playing in New Orleans. So Chris has always been a good player, and I think he would definitely lead them. I think they came up out of everybody else in this free agency.
How about here in New York, Rasheed, the Knicks? They cleared up a lot of cap space before free agency began. They were flirting with Gordon Hayward. He ends up with Charlotte. They didn't make a big move here. They added guys like, Alec Burks, who's, Austin Rivers. What about for the Knick fan that is seeing another offseason, even with new leadership, where that big, impactful free agent decided not to come?
Well, I think what it is the fact that you have to build that team back up. So they picked up some veteran players or guys who can, hold their own. That they've been in the league for at least 4 or 5 years, and it's sad to say, being in the league that long, that's one of the veterans or being a veteran. You have your guys like, of course, LeBron and KD, who's been here for quite some time. But the Knicks, like I said, they're trying to build a bench up, in my opinion, build that bench up, and because if you do land that big free agent, you can't run him in the ground, so you got to have something there for him to come to.
Yeah, and Sheed, we've gone through a couple news cycles where maybe we think that Russell Westbrook might be, potentially a trade target for the New York Knicks. With this team and with the expectations of the Knicks, at least Las Vegas thinks they could win. They're setting the over-under at 22.5 wins for the Knicks, okay? So not expecting them to be a playoff team, obviously. How do you think Russell Westbrook would fit in with this current team if they did make that trade?
I said, of course, Russ will make everybody around him better. Just from I would say, the dynamic point guard / shooting guard that he is, and he does get others involved. But of course, we all know that he can go and get his own bucket too.
Yeah.
So, but if he comes, then I think not just necessarily him, but any free agent, any veteran free agent. I think you have to look at it the same way LeBron made the move to LA, for after their career. And I think the same thing would be for a free agent veteran that will come to New York. You got to look at it for after your career, probably, because New York, one is the biggest, media central in the world. And a lot of things happen up there. You can do a lot of things involved with, anything, movies, music, whatever. And some people, that's how they set their careers up. So, like, okay, well, I know I might not be able to go to a playoff team, but now let me go ahead and set this up for after my career. And I think maybe that could be also an enticing piece for that free agent to come.
Rasheed, has it become too much, though? When you look at the Knicks, the dysfunction, the losing, Durant looked at it and said thanks but no thanks. He went to Brooklyn. Carmelo came here via trade with Denver. For free agents, they look at it and say it's just I can build my brand. I don't need to be playing at Madison Square Garden 41 home dates over an 82-game home season. I don't need to be. Has the task of trying to win in New York become too much for star players?
I don't think so. I don't think so because you have to start somewhere. I mean, just look at, you get that phenomenal player. Look what LeBron did to Cleveland. And of course they haven't been the same since, but I mean, before LeBron went there and won that championship for him, I mean, no one thought of Cleveland as a quote-unquote powerhouse in the NBA. So I think the same thing could happen there. You get that big-name free agent that'll come in there and, definitely win more than 22 games. Oh, for sure. It can work out. It can work into something. But the whole key is just the patience. It's not going to happen overnight. Anything with success is when it comes to dealing with basketball, it's not going to happen overnight.
Well, considering the last time the Knicks made the playoff, Sheed, you were playing for the Knicks.
Yikes.
Yeah, yikes indeed. You've got a podcast now with Bonzi Wells, and it's a fantastic podcast, of course. Check it out. Let's Get Technical with Bonzi and Sheed. And so let's look at the Nets for a moment because they are on the rise. This is a team that's got championship aspirations now. And with Durant and Kyrie, they just re-signed Joe Harris to a really big contract. They obviously have a good core, new coach. Steve Nash, Mike D'Antoni as an assistant, Amari Stoudemire on that bench too. But the idea that they would potentially look at James Harden, that if he wanted to leave Houston, Sheed, that he could come to Brooklyn, would that work? What was your initial reaction when you heard that report?
No, I don't think that will work. Because look at the two players. You got James Harden. We all know that he's a scoring machine, instant offense, just add water. But he demands to have the ball. He has to have the ball in his hands to be effective. So, it's been quite some time since we've seen James Harden, maybe lined up in the corner waiting for the ball to get to him for a three. You know what I'm saying? So you're dealing with Kyrie as well. Kyrie, of course, being the point guard that he is, he's a little bit more of a facilitator than James Harden, I think. But in my opinion, I don't know if you can have both of them out there on the floor. Because they need to have that ball in their hand too much to be effective. And of course, KD is KD. He don't need the ball, because he can come off a screen, he can get his own shot. So he don't necessarily have to dribble a cajillion times to try to get a layup or somewhat of an open jump shot.
How about personality-wise, Rasheed? Say there's an adjustment. Say Harden adjusts. He's frustrated by the losing in Houston, and he's willing to adjust his game. How about the personalities and the egos? Three huge stars, we know that, Harden, Durant, and Kyrie. Do you think Nash could make that work? Do you think all three egos could coexist on the same team?
Well, I think that would be up to the players opposing to more of the coach or coaching staff. Look how it gelled and worked out for KD for those 2 years out there in Golden State. And also, it could be the same thing here in Brooklyn. You never know, but we'll see how it plays out, because I'm looking forward to seeing KD coming out and playing, especially since he's been off, the last year and a half?
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
What's your expectation for him coming off of, we've heard that he looks great in practices or in workouts, rather, not practices, workouts, but coming off of that Achilles sheet, and what are you expecting from Durant? Do you expect he's going to come back and be the same guy he was, or is that expecting too much?
He's going to come back busting ass. Because you got to remember, he's still somewhat
Case
young,
closed.
So he has that fire in him. And he hasn't played, and then, once you're sitting on the side, you're out for the year, and then when the visiting team comes in or you go on a road with them, everybody talking junk to you, and the first thing you say, all right, wait till I come back. So, when KD comes back, I think, it's going to be great for the league, of course, but I don't know. I expect him to be KD, to make it look easy like he does. Because, a guy that's smooth at 6'11", 7 feet, and can shoot the way he do, he makes it look easy.
Rasheed, do you think a championship, if he delivers, along with the rest of his teammates in Brooklyn, do you think this would be the best championship he wins as compared to what he did in Golden State?
I don't know. That was more of a high-power team in Golden State that he was dealing with. You had about 5 or 6 guys who can go out there and get you numbers. But I don't think it's like that on this Brooklyn team. Of course, we know KD gonna get numbers. We know that Kyrie's gonna get numbers. So, but after that, you gotta have that third bona fide scorer. And as you mentioned, Maggie, maybe it could be Harden if he swallows ego and if it does work out. You never know. But they're gonna need a third scorer though, and they're gonna have to play defense because we all know D'Antoni. He ain't trying to play no defense.
No, there's no defense. Rasheed, do you think Karis LeVert can be that guy?
He's proven to be that in the bubble, which was really surprising to me. Karis played awesome. He played awesome down there in the ball. And he represented for a squad. Yeah, we ain't got Kyrie, we ain't got KD, but we still going to go out here and work. And so he tried to show that leadership during that bubble time. And, he definitely – I notice him now, and I know he's a part of the Brooklyn Nets. But the thing is, okay, now we're going to get back to doing it the regular season because in the bubble, you had that certain amount of games. It was almost like the NCAA tournament.
Right.
But now during this regular season, okay, now it's all about longevity.
Yeah, and unfortunately, LeVert, who did play great in the bubble, you're so right about that, but he's got an injury history, goes all the way back to Michigan. Rasheed Wallace is our guest, of course, the NBA champion, the 4-time NBA All-Star, the Let's Get Technical podcast with him and Bonzi Wells, and just a few more for you, Sheed. Just a last one on the Nets from me, which is about the championship aspirations. Let's just say that the team stays as is, right? Harden doesn't join this team. Are they as good as Milwaukee? I mean, would you put them as the front runner? And hell, I mean, even the Miami Heat who are in the finals. I mean, where do you put the Brooklyn Nets right now?
Wow, that's a great question. But I would have to say I'm more of a man of fact. So I would probably put them about maybe third or fourth in the East right now. For sure, you got to give respect to Miami. They did their thing. My young fella Bam did his thing. Hero and all those other guys, they stepped up big time. No one expected them to reach the finals except probably those guys in that locker room and organization. But Boston is still Boston. They're still good. On paper, yeah, the Nets look good, but I mean, I have to go with fact. So until I see them play some games, until I see them in the trench holes, like I've seen these other teams, like I've seen Miami and Boston and even Milwaukee and Toronto, then, that's when I could probably say that they can have that championship caliber team. But we haven't seen them fight in the trenches yet.
Rasheed, about the reigning champs, the Lakers, trying to run it back. You like what Los Angeles has done? Davis going to be back there, obviously, but the adjustments that the Lakers have done trying now to win it back-to-back years after winning the championship down the bubble?
Well, they brought some pieces in, but to me, they lost some great pieces too. And one of the things that, as a player, I always thought when you have big names, leaving these teams, like, okay, how is it that they didn't re-sign Rondo? He's already a champion. He's a playoff caliber guard. So how you not re-sign him, bring him back? And then, a sharpshooter, even though he's streaky sometimes, my Carolina brethren, Danny Green.
Yeah.
At times they needed this spark. At times he did have a couple of those good sharpshooting games that picked them up in L.A., won a couple games there in that bubble. So, but they're bringing in, I think it was a good pickup with Schroeder. But he's no Rondo.
Yeah, fair. Clippers made some moves as well. Rasheed Wallace with us. My last one for you, Sheed, is about your hometown team. Obviously, we know you're proud Philly. And the 76ers had a complete makeover in terms of the front office. Daryl Morey comes in from the Rockets. Obviously, Doc is now coaching them. They traded away Al Horford, which, was kind of a mismatch, not really a great fit on that roster to begin with. Do you think they make another move here? Do you think that either Embiid or Simmons is on the way out too?
Well, for me personally, I'm brown bagging it this year with the Sixers, so I'm gonna wear my brown bag over my head because
why?
I'm not with the Doc hire. We've seen that movie before. We've seen that movie out in L.A. We've seen that movie out in Boston. We've seen that movie out in Orlando. Get some new blood in there. Let's see something different. Let's pick it up. Make it more lively. So now, to answer your question, I think if I'm in that front office, I would have to look at, again, production. Now, Ben Simmons, yes, He could drop a dime on you in a heartbeat, anywhere on that 94 feet. But he also has a whole lot of things that he's lacking as far as a post game, a jump shot, defense. Then you have Embiid, who can average that double-double down there when he wants to be a big man and when he's not trying to be like KD, 7'3", trying to cross somebody over and hit somebody with a hesitation pull-up. No, get your big ass down there on that block and dominate the way you do. So if I had to get rid of one, I would get rid of Ben Simmons over Embiid, because Embiid gonna give me some blocks. He's gonna give me that scoring and that rebound I need down there in that post.
Rasheed, why no love for Doc Rivers? He's a championship caliber coach.
Blown 3-1 series lead.
Yeah, but I mean, look at the series that he lost when he should have won them. We seen the movie before, Maggie. We seen it. We know the type of coach that Doc is. Let's get some new blood in there. Just because. And the same thing with Stan Van Gundy down there in New Orleans. Let's get some new blood. All of this recycling these same losing coaches. Like, yeah, Doc won it in 2008, but that was 12. Excuse me, I'm sorry. That was 12 years ago.
And that team was you had Pierce, you had Garnett, you had Rondo,
exactly.
And that team was, and Kevin Garnett. I mean, that team was loaded. Rasheed, you mentioned about Simmons. Here's the frustrating thing. I never played in the NBA, right? I played some CYO basketball growing up, but you got to explain something to me.
Yeah, let's go resume for resume with Rasheed Wallace. Moose. Yeah, that's not going to end well for you.
No way, shape, or form. I was playing St. Catherine's CYO when I was in elementary school. That's not running with Rasheed. But explain to me something about Simmons. We saw Michael, and I understand it was Michael. He adjusted the mid-range game, the knock on Michael coming out of Carolina, not an outside shooter, even though could finish at the rim. But he perfected the mid-range game. What frustrates me about Simmons is the jump shot, the lack thereof, and the lack of development of the outside shot over his career. How does that not come to be at this stage? How is he not working at that outside shot day in and day out?
Well, I think now with him being a professional, he is. Because growing up, when he was in high school, he was always bigger than everybody. And you pushing a point, so all you're doing is dunking on cats, hitting layups and dunking on cats. He wasn't working on that jump shot. And obviously it wasn't there from the beginning. Mike had somewhat of a jump shot. It wasn't the best at Carolina, but Mike could knock that open shot down. And as you mentioned, throughout his career, Mike became that mid-range sharpshooter. But I think he still has a positive upside. I'm not saying that his jump shot can't ever get better. And as you just mentioned, no, Moose, he got to work on it.
Yeah.
If you work on it, then, of course, and you really mean it. Don't just be out there just, BSing around. No, go ahead out there and work on stuff.
Hey, Rasheed,
Thanksgiving at your house is paint us the picture really fast before we go.
Oh, empty nest.
You're alone.
Nest.
Empty nest. Yeah, I'm empty this year. This COVID thing has pumped brakes on a whole lot down here.
That's true.
So
it's going to have to be a virtual turkey day.
Yeah.
Virtual turkey day. What are you having on thing? What are you are you a stuffing guy? Are you a turkey guy? Are you going healthy? What are you doing, Rasheed?
Oh yeah, I'm classic. Go with the smoked or fried turkey. The stuffing, the breaded stuffing. Go ahead, throw some cranberry sauce in there, some mac and cheese, some sweet potatoes. All that got to be on one plate, so you got to mix it all together.
Rasheed Wallace, he's just like the rest of us, he's an NBA champion and a four-time NBA All-Star.
Hey, Rasheed, we love you, man.
Thanks so much for the time, your perspective today. Of course, you can follow Bonzi and Sheed on Twitter and Instagram. It's at Bonzi Sheed Tech. They got new episodes available Thursdays on YouTube and, of course, all major podcast platforms. Download and subscribe. It's been a really fun listen and watch for the Let's Get Technical podcast. And Sheed, have a great Thanksgiving. Talk to you soon.
All right, you too, guys. Appreciate it. Anytime.
All right, thank you.
Rasheed's great.